welcome Kat Kastner to our team. She's our new, I was going to say SID, but I don't think that's the right title. What is our title?
Director of Football Communications.
Director of Football Communications. She's coming here from the Duke University. We're very excited to add her. I know she'll do a tremendous job. I know she'll be getting to know all of y'all throughout the next several months and working with our players. But I think yesterday was her first day, so thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us, and look forward to working with you. We had a challenging fall camp, which I told our team laid the foundation for our season. I was very impressed with how consistent our guys were, and how they prepared each day with great energy and focus. They weren't perfect in the execution, but they did have really good energy and positive attitude for the 3 weeks of fall camp. Really good, healthy back and forth between the offense and the defense, and I'm excited about where this team can go. But now it's time to transition and start measuring ourselves versus other competition. And when you do that, you play games and measure ourselves versus opponents. So that's what we're looking forward to. That's what this week and next week's all about as we work to preparing for Murray State. And so with that, I'll open up for questions.
Eli, does it feel like when you get into this specific game prep, does the flip kind of switch it all for you guys, where now it's ready to go hit somebody else?
Yeah, I think the mindset changes. Fall camp is very challenging because of the amount of install and the monotony of going against the same guys. Now there's a different focus and a different preparation. You're going to be evaluated based off your retention of information and then how you perform against another opponent. You get to measure yourself against somebody totally different. So it'll be a challenge. I think there's definitely an excitement to that. For us, the big challenge, and I know we'll preview that Sunday at our press conference, but the challenge for us is our next opponent has so many unknowns because of the transient roster now with college football.
Coach, asking you to look back a little bit here, but when you reflect on your decision to give up play calling and hiring Kirby Moore, what do you think that decision has done for this program?
Allowed Kirby Moore to come coach here.
And what about allowing you to maybe lean into culture building?
I don't know if I lean more into culture building. I think that would probably be saying that I didn't do that before, and that was clearly something that we did. It was obvious I wouldn't spend enough time play designing. I think we've kind of talked through this several times. I think when I look back on the decision to give up play calling was ultimately the decision of embracing my role as the head coach, focusing on more on other areas that I needed to spend my time and allow somebody else to have the freedom and full-time opportunity to design schemes on the offensive side of the ball. I think obviously the ability to trust Kirby with that, his development of chemistry with the staff and with our players has been awesome. And it's kind of given me a fresh perspective on how to develop that with Corey and as he's transitioning, doing that on defense on that side. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. But so to stay kind of philosophical, when it comes to developing the SDP mindset and having something to prove, what did that process of determining that was the identity you wanted this team to have? Did that come from the players, from something yourself, and what makes it important that you're able to be so consistent with that messaging?
Well, the STP mindset, really began for us last year just because we knew we were collectively talented, but we hadn't proven that through results on the field. And at the end of the day, this is a results-based business. So, we needed to prove that, in our own minds, we felt like we were talented and felt like we were good coaches, but at the end of the day, you're measured by wins and losses, and so we had to prove it. And it kind of stuck. It's the chip on the shoulder type of mindset, so it's kind of stuck. And this year there's still a whole lot left to prove. I don't know if it'll be there every year, but right now it still fits who we are.
Coach, during the fall session, how much of a progression did you see from the newcomers on this O-line, especially compared to maybe where they were in the spring?
I think we've seen growth. That's one of the main challenges that I have for our coaches is to challenge our players to grow and then measure that growth so that we can see the improvement that they had. And so the players can get constant feedback on where am I at, how am I doing, and what do I have to get better at? So, whether you're talking about Caden Green, Logan Reichert, this morning we went over, weight loss or weight gains from last year to this year. Last fall camp compared to this fall camp, Logan Reichert was 376 last year, he's 344. He's moving better than he's ever moved before. He's got, he's one of the fastest, most explosive offensive linemen we've had. So to see those guys grow has been awesome. Obviously Marcus Bryant had to get acclimated to this group. And then all 5 of those guys have to get to a situation where they play 5 as 1. So that's a challenge. It doesn't just happen overnight. You have to put in those reps and you gotta continue to work on it and refine it. So, but we have seen growth.
Going back to, you saying, we had to go prove we were good. Is there a difference, whether it's an individual or just team-wide, in a team that thinks it's good, but has to go show that, and now versus a team that has kind of tangible proof that it can be good?
Oh, I don't know that we have any tangible proof that we can be good or not. I think, you'll find out if you're good when you play. I mean, that's the thing about football is every year it starts completely over, and no matter what you think you are going into it, the results speak for themselves. Bill Parcells says you are what your record says you are. So I don't think anybody in there thinks we're good. I think they know that we have to be 1-0 this week, and nobody's preseason accolades carry over into the season. So preseason accolades are just speculation, and obviously that's what right now college football and social media is all about. It's all about speculation, and that's why I get excited about doing what I said. We get to start measuring ourselves versus opponents now, which that's the reality of football, and that's why competition in football is the greatest game in the world, because you get to, and you don't get to talk about it, you get to be about it.
Coach, last year in the game against Kansas State, a lot of players looking back at the end of the year pinpointed that as the moment they really started to kind of believe in the culture, believe in this program, and go forward. Carrying that into this year, you mentioned it really doesn't matter what your record is last year, you're as good as your record is this year. How does kind of that buy-in from last year roll over into 2024?
Yeah, again, last year was last year, and that was that team and that identity. Last year can give you belief in your process, but you gotta reduplicate that process, and there's no skipping steps. Winning doesn't negotiate from year to year. It costs what it costs, and you gotta pay that cost. And so, I think when you look at our team, obviously we've got 40-something newcomers, so that game versus Kansas State doesn't do anything for them. So for this team, they have to believe and buy into the culture that we've set through the hard work that we laid through fall camp. We had 3 clearly defined goals for fall camp. That was that it was gonna be hard and challenging, and for our guys to develop the toughness to them. It was to establish our roles and make sure we're constantly putting the team first, and it was number 3, developing a just us mindset. And when we talk about it being hard, we had more live reps this year than we had in any fall camp. We had more periods in our 17 practices than we had in the previous fall camp. We had more reps this year than we had in the previous fall camps, and so that's a tangible demonstration of it was harder than it's ever been. Establishing our roles. We come out with a depth chart. We've had meetings the past 2 days telling guys exactly where they're at, encouraging them to continue to put the team first and grow every day. And then I told them after practice, we did have a lot of camaraderie through fall camp. We really worked on that, but we haven't faced the adversity yet. Adversity, just us mindset, that adversity comes when somebody else scores the touchdown that you hoped you were gonna get, or when things don't go good, or there's negative blowback on social media. We'll figure those things out as we move forward. Last year's K-State game doesn't have anything to do with that, with this team, so we gotta figure that out moving forward. And I don't, for us, this first couple weeks of football is about figuring out where we're at and how much we have to improve in order to accomplish the goals that we want, so.
Coach, in what ways did, besides you talking about their attitude and effort and stuff like that, in what ways did this camp meet or pass expectations for you, and then what do you guys feel like you still have to work on heading into this next game?
Again, expectations are external, and that's what everybody else outside of this building believes we should or could accomplish or be. Internally, we talk about standards, and so for us, the standard is how we practice, how we carry ourselves, the focus and energy that we have, the core values that we live by, the goals that we wanted to accomplish, which, I said. So, I think we worked really hard to meet those every day. I was proud of the consistency that our guys showed, to meet those standards. As far as what do we still have to work to improve on, the challenge is, are you as good as you're ever gonna be? The answer for me is no. I'm trying to grow every single day, and so our players have to have that same mindset that today's gotta be better than it was yesterday, and you gotta be able to critically look at yourself and not take it personal and say, okay, I'm not a finished product yet, I've still got a lot left to work on. Specifically for us, we had a lot of penalties, in fall camp that were, self-inflicted wounds that we really have to work on to get off the tape. We had alignment errors defensively that we've gotta be more consistent. I think Coach Moore does a great job presenting a lot of different pictures to the defense and making sure that we're communicating, so that we can be in the proper alignment when the ball is snapped. Offensively, some of the same issues in the red zone kept creeping up, so challenged our coaching staff and players to address those so that we can be more efficient and better.
Coach, you talked about preseason accolades not being a whole lot right now. Luther's certainly a guy who's racking up a lot of them. Just from this point now to when he first walked on campus, what are you most proud of growth-wise from him?
I think it would be his personal growth. We always knew Luther was extremely talented, but talent is not enough. Talent's not a separator. Talent is the floor, but really personal growth and character and developing a lead edge is really what's gonna set the ceiling for what we are as people. And I think Luther has surrounded himself with a really good team that has helped him, figure out how to operate at a higher level on a day-to-day basis, whether that's nutrition, whether that's in the academics, whether that's in his off-the-field habits. I think that's the area that I've been very pleased with. I think also, he's really Mizzou-centered as far as our team. And I thought that showed last year when Cody Schrader kind of took the role as the featured player of our offense. Lou was right there cheering him on, encouraging him, and promoting him. And it wasn't about him, it was about Mizzou being successful and winning. And that kind of goes back to the STP model, that it wasn't about individually identifying that we're talented, it was about accomplishing something as a team. And I think Luther bought into that, and I think that's probably what's made me the most proud.
Eli
Well,
with Johnny Walker.
We've been talking a lot to the St. Louis kids about, the brotherhood they feel in the locker room. Have you felt that St. Louis to Mizzou connection kind of grow over the years, becoming more of a popular choice after they come home?
It's been interesting. When we first got here, obviously we were still are adamant about recruiting the local area as hard as we possibly can, and probably overextended ourselves in St. Louis to as far as recruiting. And I think now it's been to the point where we're recruiting the right players from St. Louis. And not everybody from St. Louis wants to play at the University of Missouri, and I get that. Not everybody that wants to play at the University of Missouri is gonna be offered a scholarship. But now we've got the right fit, and we're showing what the possibilities are. Whether you're talking about Marvin Burks, Brady Cook, Cody Schrader, Mitch Walters, Luther Burton, Brett Norfleet, Trey Heismeyer, I know I'm leaving a lot of guys out, Toriano Pride, Nick DeLoach, all of these guys are the right fit for the University of Missouri, and they've embraced what it means to play here, and also what that means to represent the University of Missouri in their city of St. Louis too. So I think it's been an awesome thing. I think the other thing that we've done, which has been really good, is that we've expanded our net, and now we're recruiting at a really high level in Kansas City, with Armand and Caden and Williams and Makai Miller. We've recruited Logan Reichert. Now we're recruiting the rural areas of Missouri, at a really high level too. And I think that has been a very good addition to our recruitment.
How much progression have you seen, like development have you seen from
Yeah, I think Johnny has really tried to, take on the leadership role on the defensive side of the ball. With the loss of players from last year, the loss of some coaches, I think him and Christian Williams and Chuck Hicks, obviously the three defensive captains, along with Tristan Newsom and Trevez and Joseph Charleston and Chris Norwood, those guys have really adopted the leadership role of this is what that defensive identity of our football team is gonna be. And Johnny's been really good. I've seen him pull Williams and Nawari aside and kind of try to become a mentor to him, or guys who've had tough days. Chris McClellan, when I was all over him 3 days or 5 days ago, pull him aside and say, hey, this is how we do it here. This is how coach is. You got to respond in a positive way. And I think that's really been really good. Obviously, he's got his own personal goals about what he wants to accomplish this year, but I've really challenged him, just like we did with D-Rob and JC and Ennis and Hopper, is if you'll make it about the team, your individual goals will happen, but make it about the team. He's embraced that.
Coach, moving to the secondary, where obviously you're tasked with replacing more leadership. To use one of your words from earlier, consistency, what is Marvin Burke showing you in that department?
Yeah, I think Marvin, again, was an early enrollee last year, and I thought he had a really good fall camp, and then he started 4 teams on special teams, and then it just became a lot. And now I think he's more comfortable in what we've asked him to do. He's got a full year under his belt. He's still, contributing on 3 or 4 special teams, but now is really anchored down on what that, boundary safety position is and how to play it. I think the really cool thing about that position is we've got a lot of guys who can play, which allows us the freedom to really get our best players in special teams. Whether you're talking about Trevez, or Caleb Flagg, or Joseph Charleston, Trajan Greco's been a guy that's really stepped up. It's allowed, our coaching staff to really embrace, hey, we gotta really be great on special teams. If that means rotating some guys in the boundary safety position so that we can be fresh on special teams. I think Coach Yarrow and Coach Batoon have really done a good job of that. The safety position really has the most experience coming back with Trevez, Joseph, Marvin, Sidney Williams, Dalen Carnell, Philip Roche. It's that corner position that we have to continue to find the consistency, and probably the one that's, the most challenging for me, is replacing the 2 NFL corners.
Speaking of special teams, it looked like Whit Hafer was a guy that was in there pretty regularly over the last few days. Is he a guy that's through that has maybe put himself in position to see the field?
Yeah, obviously Brett Northfleet and Jordan were beat up, and then Tyler got dinged like 3 or 4 days ago. All those guys are back today, but I think Whit Hafer and Drew James did an excellent job of maximizing their reps. I don't know if that means they'll play any more than their 4 games, but it's definitely put themselves in a position. And I think Whit was a guy who really maximized his opportunities, and him and Jude got in with the ones and didn't flinch. They were able to go in there and perform, and obviously there was things they got to improve on, but I was really impressed with how they handled it.
Coach, with the loss of Darius Smith due to injuries so close to the beginning of the season, how is the team continually adopting a next man up mentality, and who in particular do you see as stepping up to take a bigger role?
Yeah, really disappointed for Darius, and kick myself every day, because at the end of the day, as the head coach, I'm responsible for designing the practice, and wish I would have done something different that day. He was playing had an outstanding camp, and I think he's been awesome with the right mindset, and obviously disappointed, but not devastated. Continues to be in our team meetings, has his head up, has positive energy, and is going to be a great teammate. The thing about football is it goes on, and whether you're a coach or player, the game doesn't stop. So yeah, obviously we have to have a next man up mentality. You're never going to be Darius Smith, and we don't need anybody to be Darius. We need them to be the best version of themselves, and those guys have embraced that. We've got a deep room. That's one position that we are deep. Obviously, Eddie Kelly, Zion Young, Johnny Walker, Joe Moore, Ja'Kai Lang would be the first 5, and you got the 2 freshmen that are really stepping up too.
Eli, about this group group of captains, you know, when we talked to you at SEC Media Days, you talked about leadership wanting to step up. What stands out to you about this group this season, as you know, you said, carrying you into adversity, the camaraderie you built this all camp?
Yeah, I think, obviously Brady's always been, a leader, and I think there's so much respect for him in that room because people have seen him be consistent, good, bad, or indifferent, although last year I didn't see anybody flying around in a helicopter for NIL deals, but, so we'll see if that affects him any, but he's been consistent every day in how he's approached his work. You know, obviously Theo Weiss being elected captain, you know, I've talked about him extensively in one of my other press conferences about the maturity and growth that he shows and constantly getting the best out of people. So, you know, those two guys have done a really good job on the offensive side of the ball. Defensive side of the ball, you know, it's a challenge over there because you're not only replacing great players, you're replacing coaches. And so, you know, there's a standard that Death Row has to have. And that standard is never carried by coaches, it's carried by players and what it means to be on that field, because coaches aren't on the field. The 11 guys that are on the field represent Death Row, and coaches can only say so much, but what's the standard that those guys want it to be? And that's really been my challenge with those guys all fall camp when we had good days or bad days is what's the standard? What do y'all want it to look like? Because at the end of the day, y'all are the torch bearers, and I think those three guys have been really consistent with spreading that message. But you know, again, practice is about setting the right mentality, but now you got to go measure yourself up against an opponent, and we'll see what that looks like next Thursday.
Coach, Marquise Johnson is not only a very high energy player, he also seems to be a very high energy person. What have you seen out of Marquise so far? Not just what he can do on the field, but how he affects the team as a person, especially with him being a returner.
Yeah, Marquise is a very gifted football player, and he's a very special talent with the right skill set. The challenge for Marquise is continuing to mature off the field, to be consistent in his energy. There are great days of positive energy with Marquise. We just need to see those consistently. We don't need the good days and the bad days. You know, consistency is the highest paid trait in the world. We need to see a consistent energy by Marquise in his interactions within this building and outside of this building, and that's something he's really worked on. That's something that Coach Russell challenged him on with, you know, his Elite Edge acronym, the emotional consistency. And there was, again, in 17 practices, there were some good, some bad. I would say the last 7 days have been his most consistent, and now we just need to continue to see that moving forward and see that same growth that we saw Luther make, you know, from his freshman to sophomore year. We need to see that with all of our freshmen. You know, can you be consistent? It's kind of easy to be that guy that flashes, you know, has a couple of good games, you know, when you're not expected to be counted on every day. But we need those guys not to be flashes. And whether we're talking about Brett Norfleet, or we're talking about Caden Green, or Logan Reichert, or Marquise, or Nick DeLoach, we can't be flashy. We got to be consistent.
Eli, last year, D-Rob kind of echoed what you were just saying about the difference in leadership that really kind of helped out the team last year, and that was a big difference between 2023 and past years. Was there any like notes or takeaways you had from the previous years of what wasn't working, and then how did you change that with your players?
You know, yeah, there certainly were things that didn't work. You know, I think one of the things that we instituted 2 years ago that we've carried on as a leadership class that we instituted in April, and it was not mandatory. It was voluntary, but we had weekly meetings. You know, that would be the one that I would definitely point to. I think there's been different approaches by coaches and different things done by our player development staff, specifically guest speakers throughout the summer that I think probably have helped, that were more consistent in the past 2 years than they were prior. So I think all of those things together.
What do those leadership classes look like?
It's a curriculum that we have that we go through. It's between 45 minutes in an hour, and has homework, and so we take them through a curriculum.
Coach, you mentioned you see as, other than just not having flashes and being consistent, you see as the next step in his
Being
development?
healthy, getting his foot healthy, that's the next step. Just take it one step at a time, that'd be the next step, so. Great young man, knows it, wants to be out there, the next step for us is just get healthy.
You settled on a punter or return
Yeah.
man at this point?
Yeah, we have.
Do you want to tell us who they are or not?
Out of fairness, I haven't, we actually discussed this morning in the staff meeting, but I do not know if Coach Link has made that, conversation with those guys involved, and so, out of fairness, if I could wait till Sunday, I'd prefer to do that.
Which is probably the least amount, we talked about Brady Cook, you know, last few years, obviously wasn't really battled in a position battle for us, so what have you seen out of him during fall camp, what has he improved on, and what's kind of different from camps of the past?
I think his accuracy this fall camp has been really good. His consistency in decision making, I think, you know, the first 2 days, we had some red zone turnovers that he made that were, you know, part of maturing, and he really hasn't made those decisions moving forward. I don't think he turned the ball over in either one of the scrimmages, including in the 2-minute drives where you have to try to score. And so that's been a good theme moving forward. I think his daily preparation and process, you know, last year he had a buddy system with him and Cody Schrader. I think him figuring out who his next buddy is, that he can, you know, every day be in this building and you know, set the foundation for his success is gonna be, you know, what he's gotta figure out. You know, like I said, earlier, you know, I never saw him on an off day get on a helicopter and fly around to do promotional speakings. So, you know, we're gonna have to figure that out and see if that's a continual thing or not, and make sure we keep the main thing the main thing.
Coach, there's an incredible buzz in the fan base coming into the season after last year's success. How have you sensed kind of the difference in the community this year, and then how do you plan on using your opening 4-game home stretch to establish a team identity with, you know, having the fans behind you?
I definitely get a sense that the community and the state as a whole is very excited about Mizzou football, and that's been awesome. Whether it's been this summer around the state, or dropping my kids off at school today and somebody, you know, saying, a 6th grader saying he's really excited about the football season. I mean, you know, that stuff just wasn't the same, or it hasn't been like that going into it. So that's been awesome to, you know, really stir the passion and excitement of our fan base. But our challenge is we need to sell out this first game. All right, we're a top 11 program in the country coming off a Cotton Bowl win, and in my opinion, if we don't sell out the first game, then that shows me that we're not where we want to be as a fan base yet. Okay, I mean, that's just the reality of it. Don't sit on the sideline and wait. Well, it's got to be this game. No, it doesn't. Come watch this team and be excited about this team and embrace this team. And the same challenge that I have for our players is let's have a 1-0 mindset. Let's try to be a 1-0 team and be a 1-0 fan base. Don't get excited about the game in November after the bye week. Like, I don't know what that game's gonna look like. I know this week or next week versus Murray State's the most important game we have. And we need to sell it out because we need to show the rest of the country that we're serious about our program. You know, I saw a tweet the other day, I'm not gonna say it, never mind. So, let's establish ourselves. Let's eliminate all the noise about what the past history of the fan base has been. Let's establish what our identity moving forward is gonna be. Yes, in the establishment of the identity moving forward is, it doesn't matter if it's a Thursday night, Monday night, or Saturday night. If we're playing a for real field, we're selling it out.
We have time for one more question with Coach. Okay. Thank
Good,
you.
I like to end on that one.
Thank you.